Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Workday Morning Show. I am your host, as usual, Tony Gilfillan. We were going to be adding some AI to the app that we had been building previously, but there is a slight issue if you are just waking up. Cloudflare is a large hosting company that is blowing up some services around the internet today, including ChatGPT and Anthropic. So I'm actually unable to pull an API key to do the things that I wanted to do today. But that's okay. We have other things that we can jump into. So if you guys are not aware, Cloudflare is having some issues. It is literally making a bunch of stuff around the internet go down, including down detector. So you might not even be able to tell certain things are down. Anyway, so that's unfortunate, but we will continue to trudge on. With that, I also want to let you guys know that Workday Rising is in session. Workday Rising, if you're in person, it starts today. If you want to register for the digital experience, you can still do that, and it does run for tomorrow through the 20th. So you can sign up, see all the on-demand content, see the keynotes. Lots of great stuff coming out of that. Definitely register for Rising EMEA Digital if you are not attending in person. All right. So without the ability to actually create our little AI version of our app, we're going to dive into one of our friends' little apps that I actually have been wanting to play with. So our friends over at The Groove created a pretty neat little um, tool to review your existing apps, to be able to kind of run it through the ringer and test it against some rules that he built. And our friend Chris Humphrey is that person. If you're not familiar, he is a very smart individual, works over at The Groove, and has built this and put it out there for everyone to share, out on GitHub. GitHub, Dragons and Developers, Arcane Auditor. And he actually built some pretty cool little installers. So you don't even need to run this from a CLI or do any kind of fun drag and drop. You can literally just run this on your local machine and get it running. Very simple, very easy, packaged up little helper tool for us. I'm going to go ahead and use the Mac OS since I am on a Mac machine here. All I need to do is install it. I've already installed it, so now all I need to do is run it. Again, it is just as simple as dragging it into your applications folder or running that exe on a Windows machine. And this is called the Arcane Auditor. Very neat tool. Pretty slick graphics. And here's our interface. Now all we got to do is choose a zip file and run it through the auditor. I'm going to pick our stock application. This probably isn't going to have much because all it is that orchestration piece and the card. Did evaluate, didn't find any issues. Not surprising there since it is just that orchestration. Maybe let's grab a different app to run through this to see if it will actually blow up on some stuff. We're going to create an extend app, and we're going to create from one of our really old app catalog apps. How about we do vaccine management from the olden times? Hard to think that COVID was almost 4 years ago now. We're just going to create this, and we're going to download the zip. Back to our app page so we can download. Download, and let's upload a new file here. I just have to restart my app. Choose our new zip, downloads. management, and let's run it through the ringer. He's even got a light and dark mode here. Good job, Chris. Okay, so this one has some issues. So it ran it through, I believe Chris baked in about like 45 different rules against your PMDs here. So you're able to see all kinds of different things that are being flagged. So like you have uh, an endpoint that is missing status codes. A bunch of them looks like that's an issue. And it's actually giving you actions to do as well. So how handy is that? Flagging all these warnings as well as actual errors to give you actionable things to change in your app. So there's a boatload of stuff that we could do to make this app a heck of a lot better. We could download to Excel. Let's see what that looks like. Downloads folder. So there's a big handy Excel file that you can download, use it as a checklist, fix all your things. Fantastic. That is a cool, very cool tool. Love it. If you want to hear more from Chris and company, they actually host Wizard sessions. Coincidentally, one is happening today at noon Eastern time. So if you want to sign up for those, thegroove.io/wizard sessions, and you're able to stick in your information, click submit, and they will send you a email with the invite to that. So definitely recommend checking that out. Very good stuff. Very helpful folks over there. All right. So ChatGPT and Claude may be down, but Cursor itself is not. And I wanted to show you something that I actually discovered yesterday when I was playing around with the editor after our session. So it has up here at the left-hand corner of Cursor, you see you have agents and you have editor. Editor is that just standard view that you have on the left. You have your workspace and your repository stuff, as well as the regular old editor and the chat. But if you switch this agents view, you're able to actually run multiple agents at the same time. So you can essentially concurrently run different things. So you basically act as like a team lead, and then your agents are going to be your developers doing different things. So let's say we want to create a new agent here that does whatever. So we're in an empty workspace here. And let's say we want to utilize the new Flowise open source version of Flowise locally on our machine to be able to build some drag and drop agents. So let's just tell this cursor to create a local instance of Flowise for me. So that's going to go ahead and do its thing, and I can create a new agent while this one's already in progress and say I want to also create a local MCP server for my Flowise agents. So now I have two agents running concurrently, building different things, and it's going to tell me when these have to stop and get, different. Yeah, it probably needs different actions to be approved, so I can switch back to this one. This is trying to set up some local structure and configuration files. Go ahead and do that. So it's going to start doing what it needs to do while my other agent is still running. And we can create up to 8 agents with this view. So that's pretty neat. So I could say, create me also a front end where I can manage both my Flowise instance and my MCP server. So now this is also going to just start going on its own thing. So I have 3 agents all concurrently working together to build out this Flowise idea here. So it's creating a local instance for myself. It's creating an MCP server. If you're not familiar with MCP, it's that model context protocol that LLMs are using these days to basically create tools for your LLM to do different things. So you're able to create agents and give those agents different tools to be able to kind of think and act on certain things that you're giving it access to. So if you're giving it access to an API, you're giving it access to local rights on your machine, you're giving access to, even other agents. So if you want to let an agent hit Anthropic or Claude or, OpenAI or anything else, basically you're giving it access to do different tools with those MCP tools. So this is pretty powerful. It's kind of just going on its own in 3 different threads all at the same time. What else could we build here with our agents? So we got 5 other agents we can essentially kind of get off to the races here. I'm building away. Let's open up our app. How about that? We can possibly even use our local instance. Not sure. Maybe we can hit our local with with extend. Probably have to give ourselves some sort of DNS. Let's move over to our dev site. So Workday has not been affected by the Cloudflare issue as far as I'm aware. I believe all of our services are still up. Extend and Workday proper are all still working as intended. I go to my stock app. You can also kind of have a look, see where the current version of our app is. Our app is cranking away here. Oh no. I get a YouTube error, or if YouTube's getting hit with the Cloudflare. Who's not? Hopefully I'm still connected. If anyone is in chat, please drop something in there so I can see that I'm still talking to not the wall. Right, we'll go into our stock retrieval. Still says I'm streaming, so I'm assuming that's a good sign. Play something. Studio. Thank you for that. Nice to know that I haven't been lost into the ether. Alright, so I got one agent waiting for review and continue. Let's go back to our app here that we were working on. So what we did before, if you guys remember from last week, we created a third-party application that wrapped around an existing stock API, and then we pushed that data into a business object, and then we put that business object into a home card. Let's go ahead and check the home card too. Orchestration is quite simple. All right, so this is the extend side, basically all the front end plus your business object. We have our card. Back to and this is just literally bringing back our data. Did fiddle with that slightly last time. It doesn't look like it's saved. So let's actually pull the current price for the. What you're looking at here is just the dot notation of the data coming back, and that's why it looks like just the full JSON. So essentially, we're going to navigate down into the current price. So just add dot current price. Pull it in. Going to a little bit more helpful. Dot price. Do creating a string. Stock ticker here. Now let's actually just stick this into our tenant itself, because I don't think we ever did that. Jump over to our tenant. Open up the window here. And I still got an agent running in the background, so I'm mildly monitoring it here over on the left. So you can kind of work on your own right, and then still have your cursor IDE kind of plugging away for you in the background as well. So pretty handy multitasking. I head back to the developer site so I can jump over to my tenant real fast. Actually, I think they put this into here now. Save and deploy, you can jump over directly to the tenant, but I thought they put a button, not a button, but I think it's off the drop down now that you can actually get into tenant pretty quickly directly from folder. Do that real quick. I just want to make sure that I'm not going crazy. This is, yeah, manage in tenant, view in tenant. Has been there for a long time, but I think they did this now. Yeah, so if off this little 3-button menu, even after you've deployed, even after you've gone back to developing stuff, if you use this 3 buttons, you can jump into tenant. This configure in tenant will jump you to the app manager. View in tenant will just take you directly to the home page. Not thinking I deployed. That's okay. We can go here. The button generally works, so it happens when you demo stuff live. Alright, so if we go to our home cards, we should be able to see our card. We have a few cards already out here. We're gonna stick just stock info. Cards notch up. That probably means we don't have card configuration. Not put that into our app. We have the card itself, but cards need a page configuration if you're sticking them into different hubs. So this page configuration's down here on the left. You actually have to create a page configuration. We'll call this stock info config. I'm sorry, not config. This is The card tenant settings. The page configuration cards are the home cards themselves. Stock info, card settings, and SQL traces. Security domain and card route of stock. Now if we deploy this, we should now be able to see that in our little workspace. This is still kind of cranking. Waiting for me to continue. So it's building a custom MCP server off of Node.js. Excellent. And we'll take a look at what those other two did in just a second here once we get this card out real world. Workday Studio is working. Right, we have it in tenant. Now let's back over here, edit work tools. Should be able to see our stock. There it is, perfect. So here's our stock info settings. Added it to our home cards workspace. So now it should appear in the home page of folks that have that domain. So I added myself, well, not myself, Logan O'Neill, the HR administrator, if you guys recall from last week, to that domain. So Logan McNeil, the HR admin, can see this stock price card pop up on her homepage. Excellent. All right, let's jump back and gears back to our editor here and hit the continue. Let's see what these other two did for me in the background while I'm editing. So it created a dashboard for me running, let's say, start Flowise and eServer. And then my last bit is still kind of creating my little front end that's developing for me to manage both the server itself, the MCP server, and Flowise. Flowise has a UI built into it. That in just a second when it starts up. All right, so my Flowise should be running. Change the port on those three. And so I have created a local instance of Flowise before. That's why it's expecting me to actually use credentials. If you are setting this up for the first time, it's going to create some environment variables and path stuff for you on your local machine. So don't think that it's tied to some other authentication. It's literally just built into your local Flowise. So when you fire this up for the first time using Cursor or whatever means you want to, you could set this up yourself with the CLI. You could set this up with Claude Code. You could do all kinds of different ways to set this up, but essentially all the configuration is going to be the same, and it's going to be stored in those local variables. So don't fear that your instance isn't going to have authentication, because it's going to be baked into it. Like the auth is all pre-created for you. You have to create an administrator configuration to log in here. But this is what Flowise looks like. You have your chat flows, your agent flows, most importantly up at the top here. Agents is what we'll be building stuff in, which is all the fun LLMs and different tools and stuff you can use. I created this little flow here a while back. This is actually doing token rotation for you and turning it into a tool that other agents can then use to use tokens within Workday. And I can't really talk about that right now, or else we'd be talking for the next few hours on this. But maybe we can jump into that in our next one, because that is a little bit more of an in-depth topic around authentication and credentials and how to safely store them and all that good stuff. So this is a nice little tool that my other agent uses to actually pull some information for Logan. So this is, again, a very simple agent. All it does is talks to Claude. And then if I open up my agent here, it's actually using a different agent as a tool. So this is an MCP tool. Like what you're doing here, these are tools that is in the MCP protocol. And the tool that it's using is one of my other Flowise agents. So it has context into the other agents I've built within this Flowise, again, within this local instance of Flowise. If you're building agents out on the SaaS version of Flowise, if you're going out to actually build them out there and have them hosted, you won't have context to anything in your local agent. You can share them. There's ways to do that. But you won't immediately have context if you build locally and then go and build stuff in the version out on the SaaS version. That those are two different instances. They won't be able to talk to each other. You will have to pick one or the other or share them in another way. So you can do this up at the top here in the Flowise editor. You can export your agents. So if you wanted to, say, move them from your local instance, say you wanted to develop these agents locally and test them, and then eventually push them out into the hosted version out on the internet, you can do that. You can essentially export your agents as a JSON and then push them into other versions of Flowise. So there is that option as well. Like my other agent builders here are still kind of cranking. Again, this is kind of firing up an MCP server for me. And then my little front end that it's also trying to build. Curious what this thing is even trying to do here. Building a tail end, front end with React. And I would like, so the one thing that's difficult, and I'm trying to get this thing to do, is creating tools on an MCP server isn't terribly difficult to do. Cursor and Claude Code are very good at creating them. You're just kind of giving them context into what you want them to build. So if I jump over to my other tool that is doing that token refresh, you can see that the tool itself is actually quite simple. So this is the tool. This is the body. This is what the MCP server cares about when you're actually accessing that tool. But on the back end, it's a little bit different. So in your MCP server itself, it's got things like your credentials, your client secret, your client token, all that stuff that is hard coded into your MCP server. So you're able to then put this out there to give agents access to these tools without having to hard code all of your sensitive tokens out there. So you're able to give an agent just this very simple JSON, and it's able to grab all of that obfuscated data into your new agent. So it's a very handy way to provide very useful tools without exposing sensitive data. And it looks like my little front end finished here. Did it. Start my front end. I don't know if this is running or not. Claimed it was done, but it didn't seem to be running. I want it to run that for me. If I don't have to open a terminal command and run things, I'd prefer not to. go ahead and running these commands for me. The npm install, that's that package manager for Node. And it's just a change directory into that front end file that it created. All right, let's see for me. Cool. Here's my MCP server, but can I actually see it? Oh. All right, well, this is something. It did start. I can start and stop my services from that, so that's kind of handy. Tomorrow we can start talking about actually putting in, like I wanted to do today, that AI version of my stock application and extend. So essentially what I want to do is hit an LLM and get, based off of a prompt, based off of the current price of a stock, whether or not that is a buy or a sell. Again, not going to be financial advice, but it could be useful information for our employees. All right. Well, thanks for joining, guys. I hope the Cloudflare issue isn't going to affect you too bad, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks all.